director of National Counterterrorism, Joe Kent, he just resigned today. He said he can't support your conflict with Iran. What's your reaction to that? And did you?
Well, I read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. I didn't know him well, but I thought he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was. The question is whether or not they wanted to do something about it. And many people, many of the greatest military scholars are saying for years that presidents should have taken out Iran because they wanted a nuclear weapon. They were, if we didn't do the attack, or if, I'll go a step further, if I didn't terminate the Iran nuclear deal given to us, one of the worst deals ever made by Barack Hussein Obama. Remember when they sent Boeing 757s over there, loaded with cash? Hundreds of millions of dollars. You would have been very happy. This was a wonderful, they said hundreds of millions. People forget that. Does anybody remember? Right? You remember. Hundreds of millions of dollars in a Boeing 757. I think there are two of them loaded. They took the seats out and they put cash. And it was so much that there wasn't a bank in Virginia, Maryland, or D.C. that had any money left. They stripped them of all their money, put it into place, sent it to Iran, almost as ransom. That's not going to happen with Trump. And nobody ever did anything about it. Nobody ever said anything about it. Can you imagine if I did that? So they've been a threat for a long time. But they've really been a threat. If I didn't terminate Obama's horrible deal that he made, the Iran nuclear deal, you would have had a nuclear war 4 years ago. You would have had nuclear holocaust, and you would have had it again if we didn't bomb the site. So when somebody is working with us that says they didn't think Iran was a threat, we don't want those people, because, and there are some people, I guess, that would say that, but they're not smart people or they're not savvy people. Iran was a tremendous threat. And virtually every NATO nation, and this is the thing, if they told me it wasn't a threat, and therefore they don't want to help, but when they say it was a threat, and it was a major threat, every one of them, I think every one of them, I don't know of one that said they're not a threat, but when they say it was a threat, but we're not going to help, I think they're very foolish. You know, it's interesting. It's interesting because I could say this, that what's happening in Ukraine, we're probably in there for $400 billion. We don't spend any money anymore. They buy it from us and they pay full price. But Biden gave them between $350 and $400 billion of equipment and cash. Someday they'll have to find out about the cash. And you could say that wasn't a threat, you know, we're helping them. So we helped them, and they didn't help us, and I think that's a very bad thing for NATO. Yeah.
This morning, former Congressman Joe Kent, who you campaigned for when he ran for Congress, resigned as the director of the Counterterrorism Center. He wrote that he cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. He writes, Iran posed no imminent threat to our nature. It's clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. How do you respond to that and to those other Republicans who say that this war is actually putting foreign interests above domestic interests?
Well, that proposition at the end is clearly wrong. I'm on the Gang of Eight. I got all the briefings. We all understood there was clearly an imminent threat, that Iran was very close to the enrichment of nuclear capability, and they were building missiles at a pace that no one in the region could keep up with. They were far outpacing our allies and friends and us in our defense capability, because we had personnel, installations, members of the armed services, and civilians in the region. Iran was building up ballistic missiles at such a rapid pace, and we knew that their plan was to fire them upon Americans. The commander-in-chief and his administration had a very difficult decision to make. I don't know where Joe Kent is getting his information, but he wasn't in those briefings clearly, because the Secretary of State, the Secretary of War, and everyone, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Kane, they had exquisite intelligence, and we understood that this was a serious moment for us. Had the president waited, I am personally convinced that we would have mass casualties of Americans, service members and others, and our installations would have been dramatically damaged. And so we had to, the president felt that he had to strike first to prevent those mass casualties. That's a summary. I can't tell you the classified part, but that's the summary that's made public, and it's accurate.
What was your reaction today to the counterterrorism director stepping down due to the work they were doing?
Well, I applaud him sticking to his principles. This war is wrong. It is reckless. It is unlawful. And most importantly, it's not what Americans want. Working class Americans, like the folks I fought with and grew up with, have had it with endless wars and endless conflicts. You know, Joe is somebody who I've known well. We've had our disagreements over time, but he's a man of principle, and he's sticking with his principle. And he understands that this is not a war that we should be in, and we have once again got pulled into a quagmire in the Middle East that's going to be very difficult for us to extract ourselves from.
He said that he believes there was no imminent threat. House leadership, Speaker Johnson specifically today, said in Gang of Eight briefings they have heard there's an imminent threat. How do you decipher those two notions?
You don't have to decipher them. There isn't. There just isn't, right? I'm a member of the Armed Services and the Intelligence Committee. I've made most of my adult life focus on national security. I have no reservations at all in addressing threats to this country. If there's a threat to this country or to Americans, by all means, we should use our military smart and in wise ways to go after that threat. But in this case, there just hasn't been, right? This is a war that Donald Trump decided he wanted to start, so he concocted an ex post facto justification for it, which has changed, by the way, 4 or 5 times by my estimation, and continues to change. And it's absurd. Americans deserve better, and it has to end.
And then just very briefly, any thoughts on the president's counterterrorism advisor resigning, Joe Kent, and just what do you make of his comments saying Iran posed no imminent threat?
Yeah, I think that the word imminent is taking on different meanings for different people. And, you know, I respect anyone who resigns because they have such strong disagreement. You know, that was a good move for somebody who is in such an important position but could not, in good conscience, support the strategy. I support the strategy, which is pretty remarkable since I generally don't want us entangled in foreign wars. But you look at how weak Iran was at the time. You look at the fact that it's not just Iran. Iran is Iran plus Hezbollah, plus Hamas, plus the Houthis, and plus various smaller cells of terrorism around the country. They are the world's largest purveyors of terrorism. And the opportunity to catch them while they're weak and while the United States and Israel are strong was just a timing advantage that we had when we know that the Iranians, if they get a nuclear weapon, they're going to use it.
Doesn't Joe Kent's resignation?
Do you have any reaction to the resignation of the president's counterterrorism advisor, Joe Kent, and what do you make of his comments saying Iran did not pose an imminent threat?
He's speaking the truth. He knows that there was no imminent threat. Nobody should know better than the chief of anti-terrorism that Iran posed no imminent threat. It's a war of impulse and whim, not even a war of choice. And nobody should know it better than Joe Kent, who's in charge of counterterrorism. He's speaking the truth to power, and Trump doesn't like it, but I will tell you, I think there'll be more resignations.
Senator, could Muellen's appointment be a way out of the DHS shutdown?
I think.
No, look, I don't have a reaction when extremists like Joe Kent say, "I'm out of here. This administration isn't doing what they said they were going to do." I think it's incredibly telling. Look, the important thing, this isn't about who can we reach out to and will Republicans support a Democrat. No, this is about the president's words, and people have believed him. many people in the public who are, purple voters, they vote red, they vote blue, they believe the president when he said he would lower the costs on day one. They believe the president when he said he would cut your utility bill in half within a year. They believed him when he said he didn't want to make investments in foreign wars or to get America in more conflicts. They believed him. This is someone who just can't be believed. And that's what House Democrats will continue to say through this year and through this administration. This is somebody who does not believe you should have health care. He does not believe you play a role in our communities and that you should be honored and lifted up and we should be looking out for you. He wants to look out for his big business friends. He wants to look out for his family. He wants to make sure that they are well taken care of. He wants to ensure that all of his friends can do all of the insider trading that they want and can benefit themselves. But you, the American public, do not fit into that system. And that's the most egregious part of it. And I think that's the story that we'll tell through November.